Okay, hey guys, welcome to our last video from the Animal Kingdom. All right, I hope you've enjoyed the Animal Kingdom. Hope you've learned a few things that maybe you didn't know before. But today we're going to wrap up our study of the Animal Kingdom by talking about our last two classes of vertebrates. Okay, and remember, of course, vertebrates are animals with backbones. There's 5 major groups of vertebrates. Okay, we have the fish, which is composed of 3 classes of Agnatha, Osteichthyes, and Chondrichthyes. And then we have class Amphibia, which is your amphibians, and class Reptilia, which are your reptiles. Okay, in this video, we're going to look at the last 2 groups, which are your birds, okay, and your mammals. All right, so birds. Birds make up class Aves, okay? That is the name given to the class that includes all of the birds. All right, well, what makes a bird a bird? Well, first of all, birds are the direct descendants of dinosaurs. Okay, if you remember, dinosaurs, as I said it with the study of reptiles, dinosaurs were reptiles, all right? And birds evolved directly from the dinosaurs, all right? And if you remember that video we watched in class, we were looking at how scientists could make a dinosaur from an emu. All right, you could see how the birds were directly evolved from the dinosaurs. Okay, so birds are actually very closely related to reptiles. All right, however, one thing that makes them different from reptiles is the fact that they are endothermic. All right, all the classes of vertebrates that we've talked about so far have been ectothermic, which means they're cold-blooded and their body temperature changes depending upon their environment. Birds, however, are endothermic. They're warm-blooded. Birds do not, their body temperature does not have the ability to change on its own. Maintains a constant body temperature, similar to us, okay? And we are mammals, and so we'll be talking about that with our last group of vertebrates, all right? Birds have very lightweight skeletons, all right? Makes sense. They need the ability to fly. If their skeletons were very heavy, it would make it very difficult, all right? Their bones are actually hollow, all right? Not completely hollow, but there's not a whole lot of marrow inside the bones, okay? They're very lightweight, all right? Now, birds are the only animals that have feathers, okay? Now, here's where you can see that they're very closely related to reptiles. The feathers, are made of keratin, all right? That very strong, tough protein that the scales of reptiles and the claws of reptiles are made from, all right, is the same substance that makes up feathers of birds. Feathers are very light, but they're also very strong, and they uncover the entire body except for the feet and the beaks, all right, of the birds. Now, there are 4 main types of feathers that you can find in every bird. All right, you have the down feathers. Those are the feathers that are closest to the body, and they insulate, which means they keep the bird warm. If you've ever heard of down comforters, down pillows, those tend to be very warm comforters that humans use, like on beds. And the reason why they're very warm is because they're made from these down feathers, which is the ones that keep the bird's body warm. Then you have the contour feathers. Okay, these cover the down feathers, and they provide color, and they give the body shape. Then you have your quill feathers, which are the big long feathers that you find on tails and wings of the birds, and these are used to lift, balance, and steer in flight. All right, and then the last type of feather that they have are powder feathers, which release a very fine white powder that repels water. Okay, this is spread over the feathers of the bird and over its entire body, and these are very important to birds that live in or near water. So like ducks and geese and those types of birds are going to have these powder feathers. Right, now a few things about birds and their feathers is that there are oil glands, okay, underneath feathers that produce or there's oil that's produced by glands in the tails that gets spread over the feathers to waterproof them. If you've ever seen a bird, like you've ever watched a bird where it's like picking at its tail and then spreading its beak, you know, taking its beak and covering its body, like almost like it's scratching its body. What it's doing is it's using its beak to activate that gland to release this oil that it then uses the beak to cover it, to spread that oil over their feathers. All right? And just like we talked about with arthropods, how they molt or they shed their exoskeleton as they go through life because the skeletons don't grow with them, so they shed their skeletons and grow a new one. Birds lose and grow new feathers constantly. So birds do go through a process of molting as well. Excuse me. Now there you can see a picture, and it shows you the different types of feathers. And you can see the flight feather, that's a quill feather, all right, which is the ones that are on the tails and on the wings. You can see the contour feather, which is the ones that covers the body and gives shape and color to the body. And then you can see the down feathers, the different types of down feathers, right? There's a couple different contour feathers there, all right, but the semi-plume is a type of a down feather, all right, that helps to keep them warm. Now, a few more pieces of information about birds is their beaks are also made of keratin, okay? Now, the birds are toothless. They do not have teeth inside of their beaks, okay? The beaks are used as weapons. They're used for scratching, they're used for cleaning, and they're used for capturing and eating prey, okay? In fact, the beak shape determines what it is that birds eat. If you look at little sparrows and robins and those kinds of little birds that you find around, they have little small beaks, and that's because they will eat seeds of plants. They will, get worms out of the ground and that kind of thing. But then if you think of like a hawk or an eagle, they had these huge, curved, sharp-edged beaks that they use for ripping flesh apart because they're meat eaters. All right, so the shape of the beak will determine what it is that a bird eats. And birds do have nostrils, okay? They have two little openings on the top of their beak used for breathing, and those are called nares, but they are nostrils, all right? Now, a few more things about birds is that they do stand on two legs, okay? They are carnivores as well as herbivores, depending on the species, all right? And their clawed feet is also covered with keratin scales. We said that the feathers cover the entire body with the exception of the feet and their beaks, okay? Well, again, here's that word, keratin. Their feet are covered with these keratin scales, all right? Now, just like the beak shape determines what it is that birds eat, all right, the shape of their feet, okay, varies with their lifestyle. So again, you think of like an eagle or a hawk that have those big, sharp, pointy beaks that they use to grab prey and to rip the flesh apart. They also have those huge talon feet that they use to live on, the sides of cliffs or high up in trees and things like that. But then, like your little sparrows, which eat the little seeds and the little berries from bushes and stuff, they have little teeny tiny feet because they live on the ground or lower branches of trees and bushes and things like that. Okay, and their wings vary in shape and size for their different flight needs. Okay, again, when you think about little birds like sparrows and robins and things like that, they don't fly very high in the sky. All right, so their wingspan is not very big. But birds such as eagles and hawks, they can have a very wide wingspan. Some of those birds have wingspans of 5 to 6 feet from the tip of one wing to the tip of the other wing, and that's because they soar high up in the sky. Okay, so their wings will determine, or they vary in shape and size based upon their flight needs. All right. Now, birds reproduce sexually through internal fertilization. All right, just like reptiles. Okay, the male deposits the sperm inside the female, okay, bird, and then the female will lay the eggs. All right, now there's some differences though as far as the eggs and stuff are concerned. Okay, birds also lay amniotic eggs. However, they have hard shells versus the leathery shells that of a reptile. All right, and they too have 4 specific parts to them. They have the embryo, which is the developing chick. the yolk source, okay, or the yolk, which is the yolk, excuse me, which is the food source. And if you think about eggs that you eat, which are chicken eggs, the yolk is the yellow part, okay, and that actually, if those eggs were fertilized, that yolk would serve as the food source for the developing chick. All right, the white part of the egg, again, if you think about the eggs that you eat, all right, is the albumin, and that also provides more food for the embryo, which is also very high in protein. However, they also have this thing called a chalaza, which is stringy. Okay, if you've ever cracked open a chicken egg, to have a fried egg for breakfast, and you see this white stringy thing in there, that's the chalaza, and that suspends the embryo in the egg and prevents it from pressing inside the shell. Okay? Now, bird eggs have to be incubated. And what does that mean? That means it has to be kept warm. Okay? So the mother bird will often sit on the eggs in the nest. I said reptiles, the female will come and dig a hole in the dirt, they will dig a hole in the sand, they will lay their eggs, and then they go away. All right? And then when the baby reptiles, the turtles or the snakes or whatever hatch, they're on their own. They're already born with an innate ability to survive on their own. Birds, on the other hand, they don't do that. Okay? Bird eggs have to be incubated. So when the mother lays them, the female has to sit on those eggs and keep them nice and warm. Also, they will stay, the baby birds stay with the mommy bird in the nest, and the mommy and daddy bird, and they're actually cared for a brief period of time. The birds do not hatch able to take care of themselves, so they have to be fed. All right, and after a while, and their bodies are usually not covered with feathers, so the feathers have to grow, they have to be fed, they have to be big enough, and then once they reach a certain size, that's when then they will leave the nest and they fly off and be on their own. Okay, but the diagram here that you see also shows the internal structure of a bird egg. Okay, it looks very similar to the reptile egg if you go back to the previous video and look at the reptile egg, but you can see the developing embryo, the chick that's in there, all right, the amniotic cavity that's filled with the amniotic fluid. It's called an amniotic egg because it has this amniotic fluid there. All right, you can see the albumin, the yolk sac, the chorion, the allantois, very similar to the reptile egg. All right. The only thing it doesn't show you in this diagram, and I looked for one, is the chalaza. So the chalaza is the stringy structure that suspends the embryo inside the egg and prevents it from pressing against the inside of the shell. All right? Now, a few other things about birds, all right, that you may or may not know is they have complete organ systems, okay? Like worms, their digestive system has a crop and a gizzard. Okay, and if you remember, with worms, the gizzard is that very strong muscular structure that churns and breaks dirt and stuff down. Well, the gizzard does the same thing. A lot of bird species eat seeds, and when they eat other animals, they take the bones and everything, and so this gizzard chops it up. Okay, and the crop is the storage area where it kind of holds food until it's ready to move into the gizzard to be chopped up and ground and digested. Okay, however, birds have very, very, very keen eyesight. Okay, they are keen seers. I often in the summertime, like when I'm out at the pool, I look up in the sky and there's hawks and stuff flying around way up high, and they can spot the tiniest rabbit. From the thousands of feet up in the air that they are, they can see the tiniest rabbit come out of a hole and swoop down and grab it. All right. Birds do have ears. They're underneath the feathers, but they do have ears, and they don't have the external ear, but they have the internal ear, which enables them to pick up sound waves and hear sounds. Okay, and when birds are singing, all right, like at this time of year, a lot of times if you have your windows open, you can hear the birds singing. It sounds so pretty, and you think of like all the songs that about birds singing. What they're actually doing is marking their territory, saying, hey, my spot, don't come near me. Okay, this is my spot, and I'm claiming it for my own. As well as the coloration on their feathers helps to mark their territory. All right. Now, last but not least then, we have mammals, which is class Mammalia. And this is the class of animals that humans belong to. All right, the majority of animals, again, probably that you would think of, would usually be a mammal. All right, this is the most advanced group of vertebrates because mammals have the most complex brain. All right, mammals include, dogs, cats, cows, horses, humans, pigs, those kind, dolphins, whales. All right, those are aquatic mammals. Sea, walruses and otters, and those are all mammals. All right, those are aquatic mammals. Okay, but they are mammals nonetheless. All right, mammals also are endothermic. I told you, I referred to that when I was talking about ectothermic and then the endothermic birds. We are endothermic. We have a constant body temperature of approximately 98.6. All mammals have a constant body temperature. All right, they're endothermic, they're warm-blooded, and their body temperature cannot change to match their surroundings. Mammals reproduce sexually through internal fertilization. And what makes mammals different from every other type of animal that we've talked about so far is the fact that mammals produce live young. All right, that's one definite thing that separates us. Not to mention, mammals take care of their young pretty much for their entire life. All right, for mammals, the young will develop inside the mother in a uterus. All right, and as I said, the mothers will care for their young after birth. All right, the uterus is it's a small muscular organ, and that is where babies grow. All right, if you know anything about a human uterus, it's a very amazing organ because the thing is the size of a fist when it is normal. All right, and then it will enable for a baby to grow in there for 9 to 9.5 months. All right, and it will expand to enable this baby and the amniotic fluid and everything else to be in there. And then after the baby is born, in about 6 weeks, the uterus goes back to its normal size, which is the size of a fist. It just kind of snaps back into place. So it's an amazing type of an organ, and all mammals have a uterus. Okay? Mammals all have complete organ systems, all right? Just like, the other vertebrates we've talked about. We have there's digestive systems, nervous systems, respiratory systems, excretory systems, reproductive systems, etc. All right? And mammals actually have well-developed lungs, which are aided by a diaphragm, which is a strong dome-shaped muscle that helps in breathing. All right? And I have a picture here of a diaphragm for a human. All right, the diaphragm is, as I said, it's a dome-shaped muscle that separates the upper body cavity from the lower body cavity. And when you breathe in, okay, the diaphragm will flatten out, all right, to enable the lungs to expand. And then when you exhale, the diaphragm forms a dome, all right, to kind of help push the air out of the lungs for exhaling, all right, and all mammals have this. All right, now mammals are carnivores, herbivores, and omnivores. Depends on the species of mammal. So they either eat meat, they eat plants, or they eat both meat and plants. And mammals all have hair. Now, aquatic mammals, such as dolphins and whales, all right, and sea otters and walruses, also have blubber. Notice I said also have blubber. Blubber is like a big, large fat deposits, okay? And the hair and the blubber serve to insulate the body, keep the body warm, maintain that constant body temperature, okay? Now, when I say aquatic mammals also have blubber, dolphins, whales, and other aquatic mammals do have hair, okay? Very fine, not as abundant as hair as you would think of like on a dog or a cat, but they do have hair. However, they primarily have blubber that serves to insulate them. Now, something else that makes a mammal is the fact that they have 4 glands that no other animals have. Primarily, mammary glands, which is the glands that produce milk for the young. Okay? All female mammals have mammary glands. All right, hence the name mammals. Mammary, mammals. Mammals have sweat glands, okay? And you guys know sweat glands, all right? When you're running and jumping and doing all kinds of fun stuff, the sweat glands is what regulates your body temperature and causes you to sweat. All right? It's cooling the body down by doing that. There are sebaceous glands, okay, which are glands that release oil to lubricate the hair and the skin of mammals. And again, as teenagers, you guys are more than aware of these sebaceous glands, especially the ones on your face, okay, because those are the ones that provide the zits. And then also we have, our mammals have a scent gland, scent glands, which release chemicals used in communication, for mating, things like that. Humans also have these scent glands. Believe it or not, these are scents that are not usually easily detected. However, it's something that your brain picks up. All right, the brains of mammals pick up. So it's not like you're going to smell these scents when they're released, but it is something that the brain will pick up and sends signals to the rest of the body. Okay. Now, there are 3 different types of mammals. Okay, and they're classified based upon their method of reproduction. The first one are the monotremes, and these are the mammals that actually lay eggs. Okay, the eggs do develop in the uterus. They lay them. They give birth. The live babies hatch, but then they continue to take care of them just like all the other mammals do. And there's 2 types of monotremes, and that's the duck-billed platypus, which you see there on the left-hand side, which to me, I've always said this, that the duck-billed platypus is proof that God has a sense of humor. Because if you take the body of a beaver and you add a duck bill and webbed feet of a duck, you put it together to make an animal, that's proof that God has a sense of humor. Okay? The other type of monotreme is the spiny anteater. All right? So the monotremes are the mammals that lay eggs. The second type of mammal are the marsupials. And these are the pouched mammals. For example, the kangaroos, the opossums. You see the Tasmanian devil there, the wallaby, all right, the koala bears. And they have a uterus, and the young they're conceived inside the uterus, and they start to grow in the uterus. However, the uterus opens up directly into the pouch. And so after a brief period of time, these tiny kangaroos or koalas will literally climb out of the uterus on their own into the pouch, and then they latch on, and then that's where they complete their development, which is really kind of neat. So not only do they transport their young very often in these pouches, but that's where the young will finish their gestation period. And then last but not least, you have the placental mammals. And this is the type of mammal that we fall into. And these mammals complete their development completely in the uterus. And this is the most abundant group of mammals. You can see the different pictures that I have down there that show you the different types of animals that fall into the placental category. You know, the aquatic mammals, as well as like elephants, mice, monkeys, bats, cows, etc. And they're called the placental mammals because in addition to the uterus, all right, they have a placenta, which is a flat organ that lies inside the uterus that develops once the embryos move into the uterus, okay? And the placenta is attached to the uterus via the umbilical cord, which is what attaches the fetus to the mother. So the placenta is a flat organ that develops inside the uterus, filled with blood vessels, all right? And so that's where blood exchange and gas exchange and everything occurs between the mother and the developing embryo. And it's the umbilical cord that connects the fetus to the mother via this placenta. All right, and you have proof of the fact that you once had an umbilical cord, and that is called your belly button. And when you are born, the doctor cuts the umbilical cord, which then separates you from your mother, and there's a little bit of the umbilical cord left there, and after a few days, like a week or so, it dries up and it does fall off. But the belly button is proof that you once had an umbilical cord. And all placental mammals have a belly button of sorts to show that there was an umbilical cord there. All right? And that, ladies and gentlemen, ends our discussion of the animal kingdom. All right, again, I hope you enjoyed the animals. I love talking about animals. There's just so much information out there. And I hope you possibly learned something new maybe you didn't know before. All right, so thanks so much for a great year, and have a great day.